For more now on the Pope's annual end-of-the-year speech to the Roman Curia and the decision to limit the term of the Dean of the College of Cardinals, I'm joined by John Allen, editor of Crux in Rome. John, thank you so much for joining me, and Merry Christmas over there.
Of course, Michelle. Buon Natale.
All right, John. So the Pope's message appears to be aimed at conservative and traditionalist Catholics who have voiced opposition to his papacy. How is the Pope's message being received?
Well, Michelle, I think in evaluating this talk, you have to bear in mind who the target audience was. You know, you hear Pope Francis talk about rigidity and stiffness and a kind of desire for self-preservation. It's natural to think he's talking about his political critics. But remember that, you know, this was not a speech at a Synod of Bishops or a Sunday Angelus where he's talking to the world. He was speaking specifically to the Roman Curia. That's the kind of central bureaucracy here in the Vatican. So I think less than his conservative critics there, he probably had in mind the Vatican Old Guard, which is neither liberal nor conservative. It is simply stuck in its ways. It's wedded to a particular model of doing business that has served them well over the centuries, and they're resistant to change. I think this was Pope Francis trying to say change is coming whether you like it or not. In terms of how it's being received, I think it would depend on who you talk to. I think there would be some in that old guard who would not be terribly excited. I think there are others inside the system who have seen its dysfunctionality for a long time, who are hoping that this means that the logjam will finally break.
So, John, you mentioned the old ways. In his speech, Francis acknowledged that Christianity no longer holds the commanding presence and influence that it once did. What changes do you think he'd like to see?
Well, I think you had your answer in that curious speech. Remember, he said absolutely everything about the institutional church, up to and including the Vatican, has to be reconceived in service to mission, to evangelization. Both to people who have heard the Christian message centuries ago but have become distant from it, or people who have never heard it in the first place. But I think Francis believes that somewhere along the line things got out of whack. That is, that keeping the institution afloat became more important than the mission, that is, spreading the gospel to the modern world. And he wants to do, you know, what he always calls a pastoral conversion. Put mission first. That's, of course, why he is reconfiguring all the departments of the Vatican to make sure that mission is the engine that drives the train.
Okay, so those new departments, he issued a new decree limiting the term of the Dean of the College of Cardinals, an influential position that had previously been held for life. The change, how does it move the church forward?
Well, most immediately, what it does is it removes a figure who is considered by many to be an embarrassment from a very visible position. That's Italian Cardinal Angelo Sodano, whose legacy has been tainted by concerns over his role in a number of clerical sexual abuse scandals, including those surrounding the late Father Marcial Maciel de Golado, the founder of the Legion of Christ, up to Theodore McCarrick. Longer term, what it does is ensure that you are not saddled with a dean of College of Cardinals for a decade and a half or 2 decades at the end of their career. They will now have term limits like everyone else in the Vatican. And so, in a sense, it provides an exit strategy, Michelle.
Was that something you were expecting, John?
Well, I think certainly the resignation of Cardinal Sodano was something we were all expecting. In fact, I think the surprise was merely that it's taken this long to get to that point. You know, in terms of the term limits, I know this is something that has been discussed over the years. I wasn't clear it was going to happen at the same time that Sodano's resignation was announced. But Michelle, I will tell you this, after more than 6 years, the one thing we know about Pope Francis, stay on your toes because you must expect the unexpected.
All right, I'm on my toes. John Allen, the editor of Crux, thank you so much, as always, and a very Merry Christmas to you.
Tanti auguri.
If you're watching Currents News on YouTube, be sure to hit the subscribe button and then click on the bell to get instant updates about all of our newest content, because we are putting your faith in the news.